Hello everyone, this is Zeeebo and welcome back to this AFK journey video. So in today's AFK journey video, we're going to break down Brawl 1 and talk about the different things you want to take note of and providing my own best team, my district's best team, as well as my free-to-play account's best team and showcasing the fight and kill counts itself. So first of all, let's run through the Brawl, talking about the different caveats you need to know and the different things you want to avoid for this fight over here. So the battle will feature 5 ISOs over here. There's an enemy buff for the Endless mode Steel Veil. So this causes the 5th unit to be immune to melee heroes damage, and that's why you don't want to feature that many melee characters, because melee characters will have the possibility to not deal damage to the 5th one, and then you will take up a lot of time to kill the 5th unit to spawn from this ability over here, which means that will slow down your DPS. So you'll kill less and therefore getting a lower score, so you don't want to fill too many melee units. This don't want to fill melee unit pointer is further amplified by the ultimate as well as the second skill. So ultimate Ice Shield over here grants a shield value for each enemy 1 tile surrounding ISO. So if you have a lot of melee units surrounding the ISO is going to become really tanky, and then it's a lot harder to kill, and that will also slow down your kill process. And then if we go into the second skill, Frozen Mist over here, this generates Frozen Mist after the battle starts, covering the surrounding area till defeated or battle ends. So when attacked by targets within 1 tile, you reduce the haste of the target by 50% for 2 seconds. So slowing down the haste of your unit means you do less damage, or you hit slower, and therefore you kill slower as well. So these two reasons combined with the buff effect over here means that you don't want to feel that melee unit in your team. But if you take a look at this skill over here, Frozen, which is the third ability, when defeated freezes target within 1 tile for 3 seconds. So ISO over here has a 1 tile attack range, which means that ISO will actually start crowding your unit if you do not feel any frontline unit. So despite melee unit being not a good choice for this fight, you need to feel at least 1 or 2 melee unit so that you actually lock the ISO in the frontline such that your backline can continuously output damage because of this Frozen. If not, what will happen is if you feel like 5 range units, the ISO will just surround you, and if you start killing one, your units will start getting frozen over and over again, which is what you don't want. So you don't run too many melee units, but you need to have at least 1 or 2 melee units on the battlefield to sort of keep the ISO at bay from your DPS or your supports of the team. Lastly, for the final skill, we get the Elemental Defense, which reduces physical damage taken by ISO. So a combination of all these different factors with regards to the buffs, the ability of ISO, as well as the melee range comparison. The ideal team for this setup would be a team of mages with maybe 1 or 2 buffer and having at least 1 or 2 frontline unit for you to tank up, keep the ISO at bay, preventing the ISO from reaching your backline. So that will be your ideal team building idea. As usual, a few factors to consider with regards to the team build. So my very own score right now is 99. So the top guy in my district is 107. So he does have a video up to showcase how he did it, which I'll showcase first before showing my own team. But with regards to the team building portion for this fight over here, you have to consider the factional bonus, because this provides you with quite a bit of stats. You have to consider all the different factors I just mentioned, and right here Fresto is going to be quite an invaluable frontline unit because Fresto has 2 bodies, which means that Fresto's 2 body will be able to keep all 5 of the ISO at bay. So if you don't have a really high tier Fresto, fret not, you can still use Fresto for the team, because Fresto is used as the frontliner to keep the ISO at bay, right? Fresto is not there for the damage, although Fresto can offer a little bit of damage, but the most important function of Fresto is to use him as a body block from the ISO from reaching your backlines. Okay, and on top of that, because Fresto is a Celestial Hypogean, it gives you more factional bonus, additional stats, so additional DPS as well as additional HP. So Fresto will be quite an important unit. So 1 copy of him will be sufficient, because if you go into this battle itself, all your units will be assigned to legendary tier. So later on, I'll also be using Fresto for my free-to-play account. But let's say if you do not have Fresto, fret not, you can obviously use units like Iron. So Iron is decent decent as a frontliner in a sense because Iron's ultimate repositions enemy, pull them away, and at the same time you can use Iron as a body, and when he uses his skill itself, once he moves the ISO, you provide your whole team with additional damage output because he's able to debuff the enemy with a magical defense down once you have him at Supreme Plus. So Iron's a pretty decent choice. Other than Fresto and Iron, I think in terms of the general frontliners, I'll say they are not exactly the best because a lot of the frontliners, they are physical by nature. So the next one I can think of you can use that's decently good will be Torrent. So Torrent would be able to soak up a lot of damage and then use the ultimate to do a lot of damage back. But for my testing itself, I've tested low tier Fresto at the legendary tier just off my free-to-play account, and I'll say Fresto in most cases is better than most other frontliners unless maybe your Iron is super duper developed. So the additional damage that Iron can provide and the debuff that Iron can provide could actually offer you more, but that's pretty much one of the key units for this fight, right? So Tali is also quite important, and I'll talk about it why. But let's first start with the best team of my district. Okay, so let me go into the video. Let me just set the video right and make sure everything is okay. Okay, so let's go. So this is the best team over here, JJ Guo Wang. Okay, so this is my friend with the 107Q, and let me run through his team first. Okay, so this is his team arrangement: Parisa, Taylin, Fresto, Smokey together with Lily May. So based on my own testing as well, I think the best artifact of choice to deal damage is the Arcane Spell. So I'm actually really baffled by that because Arcane Spell stat wise doesn't provide that much, but I think Arcane Spell provides for the additional damage of the missiles, which is more pinpoint and precise in bringing down enemies compared to like large AoE artifacts like Tidal Essence as well as the Starshot spell itself. But I think it's subjective, so with regards to the artifact, I think you should try and error yourself. But with regards to the team over here, he's running Parisa for the buff, the additional AoE, Taylin for the massive channeling AoE, Smokey for the heal to maintain Taylin's AoE, and then Fresto, like I mentioned, to buff up the backline as well as a bodyguard to keep the ISO at bay, and then Lily May as the increasing damage DPS and also the secondary carry or tertiary carry depending on how you look at it. So let's start this replay and then you guys can see the battle. Okay, so I'll explain the different units positioning and what they do in this fight. So you can see that Fresto will walk up to the enemy and then the enemy will start to surround him. So if you're not using a frontliner, what will happen is ISO will start surrounding your units and then you will actually fulfill the 1 tile condition for additional shield as well as the frozen, which is what you don't want. So in this case, Fresto will be frozen for most of the match. So whether or not your Fresto is built up, it doesn't matter because you will be using him as the body more than anything else. And then you can use him even if you only have 1 copy because you will be settled into the legendary tier, which is more than sufficient to tank. So I'll showcase that with my free-to-play account. And then for Parisa's case, Parisa is able to buff 1 unit. I think the buff of Parisa falls on Lily May. But Lily May is going to ballet dance a lot, going to use the ultimate bounce around a lot. And Lily May is a character that basically deals more damage the more unit you kill. So there isn't really too many units that can match that scaling in terms of damage, so I think Lily May is also pretty crucial. And Taylin, as usual, if you're fighting multiple enemies and she's able to channel her ultimate non-stop, then yeah, she's gonna hit like a truck as you guys see right here. So later on we'll see the final result shared by him. Okay, so this is in the event if you have everything built up and every unit is equally strong, because my friend actually have most units at like the super high Paragon tier, Paragon 4. So this is the damage distribution. Okay, so you can take a look at his box first, right? So this is definitely not like the team for everyone, but I think based on min-maxing, this should be the best team based on logic as well as theory. Maybe one thing that he might have tested but didn't get good result is replacing Parisa with Carolina. But if you replace Parisa with Carolina, then you'll lose a little bit of stats and that will affect your damage output of other units. So specifically for this build, we are building 1 Mauler with the Wildest Factional Talent with 2 Hypogenes, Celestial Hypogenes, for that 4-1 buff itself. So that way we get the max stats and then we are able to maximize our DPS and get the best HP percentage as well. So let's run through his numbers in terms of damage distribution. Okay, so you can see the damage output over here. Taylin outputting massive damage output. Parisa as well as Lily May dealing close amounts of damage. Okay, so this is 107Q with Paragon 4 units. Okay, hopefully you guys can see it. Let me just zoom into the team again. Okay, let me make it a little bit bigger. All right, let me adjust my screen. Okay, so I'm not sure whether you guys can see it, but this is the max screen size. Okay, and let me go into the arrangement once again. So for my team, I actually use pretty similar arrangement because yeah, this is probably the best one. I'll try to play around with different arrangement, but we kind of want to get the buff from Fresto, and we also want our Parisa's skill to hit as many targets as possible because her second or her third skill is an AoE skill as well. So if you put her either maybe to this side or this side, basically behind Fresto, not too close because you don't want to be frozen, then she might be able to deliver a little bit more. So I'll showcase that with my team and then talk about my own team. Okay, so this is my friend's team. Best damage, best kills 107. Next, let's move back to my own main account. So with my own account right here, if you take a look at the units I'm using, I tried to use Arden, but Arden didn't actually get me that good of a result. I use Carolina because my Carolina is actually a lot more powerful than my Parisa here. So let's say if your Carolina and Parisa, they are the same stat, for example Supreme class 3-star, then I think Parisa will be the better choice because you're getting better factional bonus and you're getting like equal amount of damage, right, of Parisa and Carolina. So I'll compare between Parisa and Carolina later, but my best team is pretty similar to his because if you take a look at the current pool of units, if you want a good AoE attacker that's scalable, that's not melee, and also wilder, you're left with Arden. Yeah, you're left with Arden. If you take a look at this, I mean, you can use Tasi, but Tasi is not good because Tasi will jump to the enemy and she will be frozen. So you don't want to be frozen because frozen slows down your DPS output. So that's why don't bother suggesting Tasi because Tasi will actually be frozen. And if you take a look at like the other characters, another character that I think could be okay is probably Cassidy. So this is one unit that you guys can consider. So all this magical damage dealer like Cassidy, Parisa, they are good because they're AoE, they're magical attackers, so to fulfill the ideal units you want to fill. So you want to fill the units and then take a look at your factional bonus and see which one suits you. And then if you take a look at other magical attackers like Elsa, right, units like Brian for example, so I'll remove everything first and we talk about like some substitutes for Parisa for example. So this unit, number one, Brian's a single target. So Brian is okay as well, but I think single target is never going to beat Parisa in terms of AoE damage. So there's 5 units over here. When Parisa casts her ultimate, there's a chance her ultimate can actually hit a lot of units and then reduce a lot of HP, whereas Brian will always only be hitting one target. As for Elsa's case, Elsa will actually jump in the middle of the enemy and she will be frozen. So that's not what you want, and that's why I don't feature Elsa here as well. And then with regards to the other units, they're either physical, either melee, or either units that will get close to be frozen, so that's why they won't be that good. If you're talking about the Graveborn side, maybe Ludovic is okay as well, providing a little bit of heal as well as damage, but I think Smokey in most cases should be sufficient just for the heal as well as the buffing component. So some of you guys might be wondering, why are you not using Mikola? Because Mikola is a melee unit. You run into the arena, like one thing that I mentioned, you don't want to have too many units surrounding the enemy, so Mikola is not going to proc the honorary arena that often because 5 units on the opponent's side within this arena means you lose control instantaneously. So her buffing potential is not there. That's why Mikola is not used for this fight. Reason why you don't use Reina, because Reina debuffs one target and then you kill that target and then the debuff is gone. So yeah, like the damage reduction debuff on your carry is not that important. So that's why we don't run Reina. As for the other units, they are either physical, right? They are single target, or they are melee by nature, which is not good. So that's why we have a choice between Carolina, right, between our dear Arden for the back slot as well as Parisa. Okay, if you don't have any of this, you can use Brian, whichever is stronger, or any form of buff or support that is stronger and can give your team more damage and fits into the factional bonus side. Okay, now for the frontliner, like I mentioned earlier, you want to use Freyasto because of the body, right? 2 body just charging to the enemy will be able to hold them in front, and that way the freeze will not affect your backline. And having 2 units is important because the left side of the ISO as well as the right side of the ISO will actually shift in front if you only feature 1 unit in the middle. So later on I'll showcase my free-to-play account, but this is my team, and then we throw in a Tailin for massive AoE damage for sure. So for Tailin slot, it's going to be really challenging to replace Tailin. So like I mentioned, for Tailin slot, if you have stronger Arden, Carolina, or Parisa, for example, you can feature them. So these are the good AoE attackers, and then we have Smokey for the buffs, the AoE damage, as well as the heal to sustain Tailin, and then Lily May for the stacking unit, and the last slot is Parisa. Okay, so for this one, I'll showcase 3 different runs, one with Parisa, one with Cassidy, and one with Carolina. So Carolina is the strongest amongst the 3 tier-wise and EX weapon-wise. So just take it as a reference point to see how each of these different substitute work for the team. Okay, so battle number 1, let's start. So really quickly for a whole bunch of damage, right? So this damage missile also gives you a magical defense debuff, allowing your units to hit a lot harder. So I actually broke my very own record at 101 Q. So nice. So what's our rank now? Rank 9. Really nice. So my friend over here on top is 107. I'm 101. Now let's throw Carolina into the mix. Okay, shall we? We'll do a Carolina testing with off. So she got frozen on the left hand side for a little bit, slowing down my DPS by a little. So you might want to also take note of the positioning of your other carries. So right here we did 96, pretty close. Okay, so let's run through the numbers so you guys can see Carolina is able to do more damage than our dear Lily May over here. But I believe because we dropped the stats of the team, the other carries like Tailin as well as Lily May, they lost a little bit of damage there. Okay, so this is the factional bonus side. Now let's move on to my free-to-play account to showcase my best team for my free-to-play account. Let's go. Okay, so for my free-to-play account, if you take a look at my hero collection right here, we do have a Tailin at legendary tier. And I got to say, right, this is just one copy of Tailin that's amped up by the stage bonus. And I've tested multiple team variants to say that even Tailin at the legendary tier does more damage than most magical attackers as long as she's able to channel her ultimate. So this is technically my best team on this account. But we're going to showcase an Iron variant so that you guys can actually see for yourself what Iron can do for the team. But if that's the case, we need to position our units a little bit better such that the freeze don't affect that many units. Yeah, so my secondary carrier of choice is Arden because my Arden is EX10 right here. So pretty massive AoE damage, and because we have Iron to do the ultimate to pull everyone together to charge up Arden's ultimate, we are able to get more damage. I also did some testing with some of the legendary mage characters just now. So for the frontliner, I was actually using Fresto because like I mentioned, Fresto doesn't really matter. You just need one copy. He'll be elevated to legendary here. Tailin, same thing. Legendary Tailin does more magical damage compared to a lot of units. So some of you guys might be wondering, should I be using Morale? Should I be using like, for example, the likes of, let's see, Satrana, for example? Don't, because Morale's charge up is a little bit too slow. Satrana is not AoE by nature, so she's more disruptive than AoE damage, so not that good. And then if we take a look at the rest of the characters right here, yeah, they are not characters that fit the build like I described earlier. So that's why you don't have much of a choice in terms of the best unit. So this will be the best unit. So for Smokey's case, if we do have Smokey, Ludovic, Damien is okay as well because of the fractional bonus as well as the buff. I think to a certain extent you just need a healer there, so you can also use Rowan, right, for the energy charging, but Rowan's a melee unit, so he may walk out and get frozen. So range plus support will probably be the way to go. And then for the carry, I mentioned just now, right, the good units are all over here already. Even if they are really low tier like Tailin, right, Tailin is able to do a lot. So later I'll showcase. Now let's showcase my free-to-play team and showcase what Iron can do, okay? Because just now we were using Fresto, so now we are trying to use Iron. So in this case, my Iron is more developed than my Fresto on this account, but this also showcases another problem, right? So if Iron is not drawing the aggro of the ISO will move forward. But if you're lucky enough, if the ISO spawns in front of Iron, for Iron to be that like freezing bait as you guys can see right here, then that will be the best case scenario, because I'm just using it as a bait, and when he has his ultimate, he repositions everyone, pull them, debuff them, and then continue to be frozen. Okay. Another thing that Fresto has an advantage over Iron is that, like I mentioned earlier, he's a hypogean, so he gives you 1% additional attack, so that's additional DPS as well. But in this case, I think my Iron was able to position in a perfect position to be the perma frontliner, to block out the ISO from reaching my back lines. Okay, so this case, we're going to run the full battle. So the previous one I skipped because it's the same battle, but we're just going to compare the results. But for this one, we're running with Iron, so you guys can see for yourself what Iron can do as a frontliner. My best score for this account, I think, is 60 plus. Yeah, it's 60 plus. I can't reach 70 because I don't have like this very powerful secondary carry, and my Tailing's not hitting as hard compared to like a built-up Tailing. So you guys can see, even for a legendary tier Tailing, so this Tailing in my account is only 1 copy, by the way. So if I were to go into the Resonating Hall, this Tailing is only 1 copy. So within the game mode itself, the Tailing will be elevated. But let's say you don't even have Tailing at 1 copy, right? Then just use all the other AoE attackers like I mentioned, like Carolina, for example, our dear Parisa, usable. Brian, not the best, but usable as well. So these are the units you can consider. Yeah. So for this one, let me just run through my quest over here. Yeah, so my best team damage is 61 for Brawl 1. Pretty unfortunate because we need 9 more to reach the next tier, but it's fine. For Brawl 2, I'll also be recording the free-to-play account before this event ends on my free-to-play account side. With regards to the level, doesn't matter, 240, everybody is resetted to 240, and if you have super duper low tier units, they will be resetted to the legendary tier. So from a free-to-play player's perspective, as long as you have Tailing as well as Resto at 1 copy, you should probably be using them, because one is a mid shield, don't need a lot of stats, the other one just does so much more damage compared to like every other built-up Supreme Plus character, so you want to use them. Okay, so that's pretty much it, the 3 different team variances of 3 different accounts. And thank you very much for tuning in. Do remember to like and subscribe to see more. See you guys again in my next video. Bye guys.